Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here with the System Simplified podcast, where we interview top entrepreneurs, founders, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And this podcast is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group. At Business Success Consulting Group, we create custom processes and tailor-made business systems so businesses can thrive and grow. All right, and today's guest is actually a returning guest, Adi Kaskavalciyan. Hi, Adi.
Hi, Adi. Nice to be here again.
Yes, it's so great to have you. And yes, it is right. Two Adis, but you pronounce the name Adi, I pronounce the name Adi, but it's amazing that we have the same name. Although yours, I know it's basically as a shortening for your full name.
It is.
So I know we can do a whole podcast about the origin of the name, but that's not what we're here for. So Adi is the co-founder of gFour Marketing and the Wealthy Contractor. And we have done an episode about a year ago about referrals and how to get referrals and basically the process on how to be referable and how to get referrals. And that's the main thing that, gFour Marketing is all about, making sure that you have the strong, your customer base is actually producing referrals for you. So it's that part of the marketing strategy, which is very important. It's actually a gold mine because that's how you get more leads by utilizing your existing customer base, right?
Absolutely.
So I definitely recommend, I will include that episode. It's one of my most successful episodes that are recorded, a lot of downloads and a lot of people listening to it because it's such an important subject. So I'm going to include it in the notes as well. But today we want to talk more about the other business, the Wealthy Contractor, and I'll let you talk about that. So why don't you talk about what is the Wealthy Contractor?
Sure. So the Wealthy Contractor is a community, and we've created a community that has information to help contractors. And the reason we created this community was because once upon a time we were contractors ourselves. And at this time, it was 2008, 2009. The economy wasn't doing great. At the time, we had a handyman business and a handyman franchise company, which we ended up selling. And then we had the handyman business. But 2008, 2009 came. We weren't doing so great. We ended up having to file for bankruptcy. At the time, we had two young daughters. They were 6 and 9. It was a horrible place to be. And really the reason for the Wealthy Contractor was to help other contractors on their journey, because along the way from zero, from having to go from zero to something didn't happen overnight. There were a lot of lessons that we learned. There was a lot of loss. There was a lot of sadness. There was a lot of chaos. And so my husband and my husband's Brian Kaskavalciyan, we just wanted to help people avoid the landmines that we had stepped into and had caused so much destruction in our lives. And some things are big and some things are little. And the Wealthy Contractor gives us a platform to share the message and to help others. It started with the Wealthy Contractor podcast. And basically, it's a podcast where Brian interviews successful home improvement contractors that are in the field right now, and they're sharing their best practices. They're sharing the big mistakes they made. And the idea is for all of us to collaborate and to share our successes, our failures, so that we're helping the next guy or gal as they are building their companies. And so today, the Wealthy Contractor not only includes the podcast, we have live webinars, we do live events, we have a couple of mastermind groups, and it includes all of these resources. And again, the vision is, to help home improvement contractors achieve more success, wealth, and freedom. And we get to do it every day through these conversations and through this information that's being shared throughout the network.
That's beautiful, Adi. I'm thinking when you were talking, I was thinking, the common denominator here is help. You want to help that community, right? I mean, you've been there and you realize how it doesn't work when you're by yourself, right? You feel lonely. You feel like you're the only one who goes through things. And when you create that community, it is so important. So even when we have listeners right now that might not be contractors, I think this episode is also going to just outline the importance of having that community and support group. And of course, if we have listeners that are contractors, they should definitely check it out, because you need that support group. You need to feel like you are not alone, or know that you're not alone, and share those ideas and share those resources. So let's talk about the common denominator of problem. What are the common problems that you see contractors have that usually are being brought up in the community?
So some of the hardest things, or one of the biggest obstacles is getting to 1 million, right? Is them getting their businesses to $1 million in revenue a year. That's like one of the most basic, most, common problems, right? That they struggle. And the reason they struggle is because if anybody's read the what is it? Not entrepreneurial. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot. It's that book. All I can think of is Traction right now. But it's that, it'll come to me. I'll come back to it. But basically it's a book about processes and systems, right? The entrepreneurial seizure that a lot of us have. Maybe you're a carpenter that is working for someone and doesn't like the way the business is run, and one day says, I can do this better, and goes off on their own to build their company. But the carpenter now is answering phones, providing customer service, installing material, designing closets. And so all of a sudden, are they running the business, or is the business running them? Right? They're completely overwhelmed because they're doing every aspect of their business. And they went from being just the carpenter to now wearing so many different hats. And so the idea is, how do we teach you to get out of the way, right? How do we teach you to become the operator of your business, or the visionary, the entrepreneur, the person that's going to lead the team? Because if you are doing the carpentry work, you just changed one job for another, because you're not building the business and the infrastructure that's needed for success. And so that's one of the things we talk about early on, right? How do we get you from being, in our case, the carpenter, the roofer on the roof, right, to being the business owner that is strategizing, that's thinking about the future, that's thinking, well, I need to hire a sales team. That's one of the other things we see a lot. Once they get to 1 million, they've been doing a good job because they've been selling themselves. They have a really hard time handing over the baton to the next person and training them, right? So that they can sell and they can go work on generating leads, on hiring the operation, making sure the production is running smoothly, right? So it's those different phases of the business where we try and identify and talk about. But to answer your questions, those are some of the areas that are concerning, some of the struggles that they have. And it's always about up-leveling your mind, right? You have to believe that you are worth more, that you can achieve more, and step into it. Sometimes the answer is not in front of you, but you just have to have the faith, right? If you have the desire and move in the right direction. And we try and give you the tools through conversations, through webinars that we have, through resources. We offer, the 7 Secrets to Becoming a Wealthy Contractor. That's a book that's on our website. We also offer a blueprint on how to help you achieve that success. It's basically taking the book and then how to implement it in your business. So those are some of the resources that are available to help contractors, get out of their head, start thinking about their business as an entrepreneur, right? As a business owner, not from the technician that was installing the cabinetry or the roofer that's on the roof. It's like how to strategically think about your business so that you can live the life. Because we, a lot of times, and I think you probably may agree, we go into business because we want freedom, right?
I actually agree 100%. We did a survey on hundreds of businesses about 6 years ago. And the first question was, what do you like most about being a business owner? And the number one answer was freedom.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely, I mean, it's a surveyed word, it's freedom. But then, of course, you ask about what frustrates you most. I think, let me ask you this. Guess what frustrates business owners most about being a business owner? What was the number one area?
The lack of freedom or the lack of time?
Of freedom, but because of, I mean, the number one thing that came up is personnel and handling personnel. That is but you're right. It is the lack of freedom. Yeah, I went to business for freedom, but I don't have freedom. And the number one thing that frustrates business owners is actually personnel. So, but that's aside, I think what you're saying is so true. It's like the first thing is the mindset that you are not an employee anymore. You're not an operator. You are now a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. And that is one of the importances of being part of such a community, because you see people succeeding. So you were talking about the companies that are struggling or want to get to the million, but that's really a percentage, because you showed me the percentages of the people, like, the people that attend your workshop, for instance, or your conference, right? So you have the 14% or something like that, if I remember correctly, that are below $1 million. But then you have the majority of the people in that community are actually between $1 million and 10 million. So you have a big community of successful contractors that have done that. So it is important to see that you have your peers actually did that, and they're like you, they have a truck, and they started with a truck, and they started with, maybe themselves and another person. But then what did you do that is successful? So it's the mindset. And it's also looking at what others did successfully. And as you said, you are providing a blueprint, because then you need to put it into operations. Yeah. So I know it's a secret, but can you share one secret of that book? Like, what are the, like, what is one of the secrets of how to become a successful contractor?
I'm going to share that. I'm happy to share that with you. But before I go there, I remembered the book that I was fumbling over. It's The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I don't know if your audience has ever heard about this book, but it's basically based on the idea that you are you go into it being the roofer or the carpenter or with you fill in the blank with what you're doing. But really what you want to do is create a business like a McDonald's, right? That has processes and systems and that can run without you, because that's when you gain your freedom. So I highly recommend it. And obviously, that's something up your wheelhouse. That's what you help companies, create for their their businesses. So I'm glad it came to me. So E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
It's true. It's so true. It's like, he talks about, like, basically you're either the operator, like I was mentioning, or you're working on the business. Are you working in the business or on the business? And that's what E-Myth is all about, in terms of creating a turnkey operation that you can actually then also sell. You're more sellable when that happens.
Yeah. So going back to the 7 secrets to becoming a wealthy contractor, secret number 1 is your commitment. Unless you are committed, nothing happens. You can't be half in and half out, right? You have one foot in and 1 foot out. No, you have to be committed and to persevere, because as business owners, we know that it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. Issues are going to be coming at you, and you have to have the resolve to know that no matter what, you're going to continue to push forward, right? And that comes from that, from your commitment, from making that decision. Nothing happens in our lives until we are committed 100% to making it happen.
Yep. That's very true. Okay, so that's secret number 1. Are you going to tell me secret number 2?
No, but actually it's available. You can download it for free.
Absolutely.
It's $6.95. And it's basically, you're just paying for the shipping. The book is free. So anybody who's interested could just go to the wealthycontractor.com and request it.
Absolutely. And I think also business owners in general should go and do that, because those 7 secrets to become a wealthy contractor, I'm sure can be also 7 secrets to become whatever you are that you want to be. And you don't necessarily have to have a contractor license, but you can be, whatever you are. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to get, you want to be a wealthy entrepreneur, then definitely go and download that book. So let's have I will have it in the show notes, but tell us again how we can actually go and download that book.
Yes, you go to www.thewealthycontractor.com It'll take you to a page and it's right there. You just click on a button and request your book.
Cool. Awesome. So Adi, what do you find that wealthy contractors or successful contractors have in common?
Okay, so I have an interesting perspective because I have, and there's all kinds of ranges in my business. I know contractors that have $100 million businesses, and I know contractors that are at 500,000 a year, right? And the most successful people, they know what they don't know, right? They accept that they don't know everything, and they surround themselves with people who are experts in the areas where they're lacking. And that's, I think that's really big, right? That's kind of like, it comes from a very humble place in a way, right? It's like trusting somebody else to lead you there. Obviously, you have your instinct, you have your life experience, and you may challenge that person, but really, we don't grow until we're able to trust others to help lead the way in areas that we don't know. I mean, I know that was true for my business. When we started, my husband and I, it was just the two of us. And basically, he was doing the marketing and sales, and I was doing everything operations, and I'm not an operations person. I'm not an attention to detail type of person. I had to become it. And I struggled to let go of that role, even in my business, because at one point I felt like I couldn't, like by the time I show them, I'll have wasted so much time, right? That was my mentality, that I would waste time and they would never do it as good as I did. And boy, was I wrong. The way I finally overcame that first hurdle, and this was before we went, we were over $1 million company, is we finally hired someone. It was my husband that pushed me to do it this way. And he was so right. Basically, my new employee shadowed me, and she documented the processes. I didn't have to document the processes because I was overwhelmed just having to, thinking of everything that I had to do to prepare for her when she came in. And so that's definitely a little tip that I highly recommend. But it's the processes, it's having the people, it's having the teams with the expertise to lead you to success, to the finish line, whatever that goal is for the year, for the 5-year vision, 10-year vision, whatever that is. That's what they have in common. And boy, are they committed. They're in it to win it. They're not going to take no for an answer. That's the entrepreneurial spirit, right? We don't give up. Somebody says no here, we go over here. We know that yes is right around the corner, right? The more no's you get, the closer you are to a yes. And so
that's right. But I think it's also having that group, like you said, in terms of like when we started, like that's what the Wealthy Contractor is all about, is having, when you have a support group, then you hear that other people have the same struggles as you do, or you have other people to bounce ideas or to express what's going on and hear. But it's very important what you said, that you don't think you know it all, because then you are open to listening and hearing and knowing what is listening to others that have done it successfully. And then as a group, you have your group, you have your people, that also you can get a lot of strength out of that group.
Yeah. And one thing that I found too is that people want to help. People are happy to share with you. Like, people struggle to find mentors. And I think it's so easy because once you've reached a one level of success, it's, you want to share it with the world. The majority of people I've come across are like that. Successful people want others to be successful, right? There's no lack of success in the world. You can have success. I can have success. Whoever's listening can have success. It belongs to all of us. And what I find is that successful people want to share. So it's easy to also, that's one common thing I've seen with successful entrepreneurs that we work with, their willingness to help others. We have that community with the Wealthy Contractor. Even at our events, people will give their cell phone numbers, right? Just call me, and so few people do take, like when we have these speakers and who may be a home improvement contractor. We had one last year. He's a major window company here in South Florida. And he gave his cell phone number to others, like, hey, just call me if you have questions. I'm happy to help. So the willingness to help is a beautiful thing. And then you just pay it forward as you continue to excel and become more and more successful. You share that with others as well.
100%. I agree. I interviewed Bob Berg, the author of the co-author of gFour, the gFour, and he is also in South Florida. And it's what you're describing right now. It's exactly the principles in that book, right? Because the people that are successful are also pretty humble. They're very approachable, very easy to talk to, but they want to share that. They can be a mentor, but the person that is the mentee has to want to also improve themselves, right? So it's exactly to your point. And it made me think of that book, because what you're describing is exactly those principles in those books, they're in that book. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. And it goes back to the 7 secrets. How committed are you to being successful, right? How committed are you to having a wonderful company? Well, if you're committed, you're going to humble yourself, and you're going to feel, because at the end of the day, it's about achieving the result, right? And being committed to it. So, we all have, that's part of the evolution, I think. I wish before we failed, we had been more open to receiving better advice, right? And I think that's why we're so passionate about sharing it with others and making it a point to tell people, ask for help. You're not at it alone. There's people everywhere around you. I'm not saying that everybody is going to provide it, but I'm sure that there's plenty of people in your circle that would give you a hand, that would be happy to kind of steer you in the right direction.
I agree. And sometimes you probably have to go through those experiences in order to be willing to accept the help, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or see that help is possible. So, you got to where you got today, which is great, because now you're in a position where you can help so many. So if we have a contractor right now that is listening to us and they go, okay, well, can somebody really help me? Or I don't know if it's possible. I mean, nobody understands my struggles or whatnot. What would you say to them?
I would say to them to get out of their head and the stories that are repeating in their head, telling them that they're struggling, that nobody understands me, and just put yourself out there until you get the answer that you're looking for. Because I see it happen all the time in my community, and I've seen it happen in other communities. I have friends that have coaching businesses and, and do other things. And there are people out there. I think our worst enemy is what's happening, the little voice in our heads that's telling us, that's limiting us, that's telling us, no, nobody cares. Nobody knows what you're going through, or maybe you're not important enough. Who's going to listen to you? We know what I mean? We all deserve to be successful. We all deserve to live the life that we envision. And it takes courage to shut that little voice off and say, I'm going to step into this and I'm going to ask for help.
100%. That's right. So in closing, I have a question. What's the vision? What's your vision and Brian's vision? What's your vision for the Wealthy Contractor?
So what we want the Wealthy Contractor to be is the one-stop shop that everybody knows as the number one place as a resource for home improvement and home service contractors in the country and beyond. We have clients in Canada. The Wealthy Contractor even has following in New Zealand and Australia. So our reach is becoming more and more big, and we just want to be able to be that one place that everybody says, oh, you're starting a roofing company? You got to go talk to these people at the Wealthy Contractor. Just go download their things. We want to be that one place where you can come and find your tribe.
I love it. That is so important. And it's wonderful what you and Brian are doing, what you created. And I definitely encourage our listeners to go to the website, thewealthycontractor.com, and see everything that is available, from the webinars, the podcast, the book, the conferences that you have, and be part of that community. It's really important to be part of a community of like-minded individuals, and especially when you see that help is possible and you want to help that community. So that is very important. So definitely, I hope our listeners that are listening right now, our viewers, you just go to your browser, go to thewealthycontractor.com and start getting engaged in that community.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
Adi, it's always, well, first of all, before we end off, we have to give a big shout out to Cesar Quintero, who actually introduced us to begin with. And so hi, Cesar. And Cesar is an EOS implementer. I've done a podcast with him, was also very successful. So I'm going to include it again in the show notes so people can check it out. And I really wanted to thank you for being a guest again on this podcast and sharing that wealth of information and your passion of helping the business community and making this world a better place. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.